to the machine.
You know what? I don't know what to believe. Just relax. That's it, lovely. Now, you may feel a small
Christ!
prick.
What is it?
Cutting-edge nanotechnology. Smart blood. Microchips in your bloodstream allows us to track your movements in the field.
Is our lead trainer who's been here for 34 years and also recently retained training
with related symptoms, patients with diabetes, you started on treatment, you just want to follow up and see.
Nurse Marina.
Hello, Marina.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Hello.
Nice to see
Fine,
you.
thank
Good
you.
morning, Marina. How
Good
you going?
morning.
Let's try this one. Here we go. Right, so what goes on in here? Well, this is MR
Yes.
and the BCG
Yes,
and all that jazz.
all of the-
Because there's all these anti-vaxxers now, isn't it?
Well, Marina can tell you a
They
little
are
bit about
nuts.
how we've achieved that.
Marina, what do you think of anti-vaxxers? I want everybody to get a flu jab in the run-up to this winter, and that's why we're rolling out the biggest ever programme of flu immunisation, flu inoculation. Obviously, we've still got COVID, we've still got the threat of a second spike of COVID, and it's vital, therefore, to keep that pressure off the NHS by everybody getting a flu jab, and I really hope everybody will. The use of face masks, the use of all the social distancing measures really does depend on our ability collectively to get the pandemic right down and to keep it down. I'm not going to make a prediction about when these various social distancing measures will come off. Obviously, we've been able to reduce some of them. We no longer ask people to stay at home. We're trying to get back much closer to normal. But our ability to dispense with the social distancing measures will depend on our continued ability to drive down the virus. Look, I think we should rely on the massive common sense of the British people that have so far delivered the results that we've seen, and that's going to work. And the people understand the value of face masks in confined spaces. I think we rely on the public to follow the guidance and get the disease down.
And I pray you're all well, because this is upon us. There is no warring against this thing the way men war. You understand? This is a dark, wicked, evil tyranny, satanic in its very nature, that is encompassing the world. And the only way to victory over this is by the blood of Jesus Christ. If you don't know him, call on his name with a sincere, humble heart, knowing you need a Savior, and that man cannot save man. It's all false hope and lies. He will guide you by his very Spirit into all truth and give you peace. What we're seeing is abundantly obvious, but I am coming on here to tell you, if you're in cities and you're getting any inclination whatsoever to get out of them, listen to that inclination, because things are coming, and they're coming rapidly. They're already threatening arrest for masks.
Close this door, man.
marching us rapidly into a system which I think many of us knew would one day arrive, but I don't think many of us knew would happen as quickly as it's happening at the moment. First off, take a look at this from the World Economic Forum. World Economic Forum, that's a Davos crowd led by Klaus Schwab. And here we can see an app that they're promoting called Traveling with Confidence. Well, if that doesn't scream beast system to you, then I don't know what would. And quite frankly, I see them pushing into this great reset as well, economic reset, with this whole travel changes with COVID vaccines and tracking and tracing. And I just want to play you now a bit of another clip I did a few weeks ago. I'm just going to replay it regarding the World Economic Forum and the Great Reset. This article titled, "Now is the Time for a Great Reset." Professor Klaus Schwab says we can emerge from this crisis a better world if we act quickly and jointly. The changes we've already seen in response to COVID-19 prove that a reset of our economic and social foundations is possible. This is our best chance to instigate stakeholder capitalism, and here's how it can be achieved. The COVID-19 lockdowns may be gradually easing, but anxiety about the world's social and economic prospects is only intensifying. There is a good reason to worry. A sharp economic downturn has already begun, and we could be facing the worst depression since the 1930s. But while this outcome is likely, it's not unavoidable. And he goes through various reasons here to pursue a great reset. The most important and the most urgent is COVID-19. Having already led to hundreds of thousands of deaths, he says, the pandemic represents one of the worst public health crises in recent history. I'll skip down the article, and further towards the bottom he says, during the COVID-19 crisis, companies, universities and others have joined forces to develop diagnostics, therapeutics and possible vaccines, establish testing centres, create mechanisms for tracing infections and deliver telemedicine. Imagine what could be possible if similar concerted efforts were made in every sector. The COVID-19 crisis is affecting every facet of people's lives in every corner of the world, but tragedy need not be its only legacy. On the contrary, the pandemic represents a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reflect, reimagine and reset our world to create a healthier, more equitable and more prosperous future. Okay, now I'm just going to go back to the Strategic Intelligence website, which you actually have to be logged in to see this. I'm just going to read a little bit on this great reset here. It says coronavirus-related lockdowns provided a glimpse of what is possible in terms of limiting pollution, and the pandemic's human toll illustrated what can happen when health care systems and society safety nets are neglected. Now it's up to the leaders in the private and public sectors to seize a moment and help create a more equitable and sustainable society. It's very interesting how they have turned this into opportunities for reducing pollution and creating sustainable development. Now, Klaus Schwab has been a consultant in the sustainable development areas of the United Nations over the past, and there are a whole lot of other articles related to this whole Great Reset within the Strategic Alliance's website. And look at this article from June 4th on the World Economic Forum. The Great Reset, this week's World versus Virus podcast. The Great Reset, launched by World Economic Forum and His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales, seeking better form of capitalism as world recovers from pandemic. Welcomed by the United Nations, International Monetary Fund and companies Microsoft, MasterCard and BP. The COVID-19 crisis has shown us that our old systems are not fit anymore for the 21st century, said World Economic Forum Executive Chairman Klaus Schwab. In short, we need a great reset. This week's World versus Virus is entirely devoted to the launch of the Great Reset, a project to bring the world's best minds together to seek a better, fairer, greener, healthier planet as we rebuild from the pandemic. Now, one of the components of this Great Reset and everything is the vaccine, the push for a vaccine. Now, take a listen to this from Donald Trump saying that the military will be used in a powerful way to deliver the vaccines to the American populace. And then have a listen to how far advanced and how quickly Fauci and Trump are talking about this rolling out.
One issue that has come up is once you do have a vaccine, how do you properly distribute it? How do you get it out quickly to millions?
Well, when we have the vaccine, we have the military all lined up, and the military is going to be doing it in a very powerful manner. These are people that don't usually do vaccines. They do soldiers, and they do lots of other things that, frankly, are more difficult. But we have our general, and logistically, he's all set. Tony, do you want to say something about that?
That is correct. As the vaccine rolls out, we'll be getting them distributed. And as you probably have heard, we are going to make sure that we do it in an equitable way, and it's representative of the populations who need it the most. And we have the standard way that we determine that with the ACIP working with the CDC, but Dr. Collins and Dr. Redfield have put together with the National Academy of Medicine a group that will fortify that decision-making process so that we're making sure that we're very fair and equitable in getting the vaccine distributed properly.
And I think I could have Francis say that tremendous progress has been made on the vaccine beyond anything that we would have thought if you go back 6 months. What do you think?
It is just, frankly, quite astounding, Mr. President. I've been at NIH for 27 years and director for 11, and I've seen some amazing things happen. But the way in which the whole research community, public and private, philanthropies, everybody has come together to work on this, not worrying about who gets the credit, trying to figure out how to strip away anything that's going to slow things down. And I think all of us, motivated by the fact that this is the most serious problem we've encountered in our professional lifetimes, even a day matters. And so that's why a lot of people look kind of sleepy, because we're all working 24/7, trying to make sure that nothing possibly slows this process down. Yeah, the vaccines. This week is a big week, as you just heard, having 2 phase 3 trials started in the very same day, this past Monday. And based upon very impressive phase 1 data showing that people who got that in the phase 1 trials developed these high levels of neutralizing antibodies that should be very predictive of protection, but you don't know until you actually run the trial in those 30,000 people. By the way, you heard earlier about coronavirus.gov, which is the place you can go to find out how you can donate plasma. There's another thing you can do if you go to that website, which is to sign up to say you're interested in a vaccine trial. And we need people to volunteer for that as well, because we're going to, with these 4 or 5 trials coming along very quickly, each of which needs 30,000 volunteers, that's a lot of people, and we need them.
And Francis, we're working very well with other countries.
We are indeed, and science has always been international, and it certainly is right now. And we work with our colleagues in Europe and the UK and Asia in a way that I think represents the best of the best. And again, everybody recognizes we're all in this together across the whole planet.
Now, there are all kinds of angles I could come at this from, but in wanting to keep this video short, I'm going to just look at it from this angle here. An RT.com article. Bubble indemnity. Big pharma firms will not be held accountable for side effects of COVID vaccine. A senior executive for pharmaceutical giant AstraZeneca has confirmed that his company cannot face legal action for any potential side effects caused by its COVID vaccine. Those affected will have no legal recourse. I'll go down the article a bit. AstraZeneca is one of 25 companies worldwide already testing their COVID vaccines on humans in preparation for injecting hundreds of millions of people. These are flush times for Britain's largest pharmaceutical company, worth something in the order of £70 million. They have just reported bumper profits of $12.6 billion in the last 6 months alone. Now I want to go down and look at another piece of this article here. The UK government has been on a vaccine spending spree, buying 250 million doses from various big pharma outfits. America, meanwhile, is way ahead of the curve. They have a special legal framework in which no pharmaceutical companies face lawsuits for side effects of vaccines in case of public health emergencies. This legislation, known as the PrEP Act, was the product of a massive lobbying effort from the US pharmaceutical industry, which was introduced despite vigorous opposition from consumer groups. Unless the vaccine maker intentionally murders or injures you, willful misconduct, you cannot sue them. With all of this going on and with pushing us into a digital age, digital identification, digital currency, artificial intelligence, all of these things that are going on, a big heads up it should be to all of us that we are certainly in crazy times, and these are the end times, and we are being sucked into the end time machine.
For me, it's like, if no one's wearing masks, I feel very unsafe going out. I'd rather just stay home.
Healthy West Australians are being warned against using face masks to protect themselves against coronavirus. A safety video is going viral, showing how ineffective some can be as the nation struggles with a surgical mask shortage.
It's the safety video going viral. An Argentinian firefighter with a deodorant can, simulating a sneeze or cough. It's feared coronavirus could travel in the air, like deodorant does in aerosols. This demonstration showing most face masks are useless at trapping or blocking moisture.
People should not be walking around with masks. You're sure of it? Because people are listening really closely to this.
Right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask.
The state government's advice in line with the World Health Organization. Unless you have symptoms of COVID-19, don't wear one.
To wear them as a perfectly fit and healthy person in the street is not going to provide you with any greater level of protection.
Unless thoroughly disinfected and cleaned, experts say homemade masks can even be dangerous.
They will soak up moisture very easily and can easily infect someone wearing them.
It is confusing and it is evolving, especially here in the city of Miami. Depending on where you are, masks can be a suggestion or guidance or a rule or a mandate. It is evolving, but one thing is clear. Every ounce of research shows that masks really do protect people from COVID-19. It's the legislation to mandate it.
They're confining people to their homes and forcibly. A little invasive, you think, maybe? Think about this, people. Understand? Forcibly testing them. This is a violation of your body beyond reproach. I got sent a letter that was put out to this apartment complex in California. Mandatory testing, mandatory quarantine, and I don't care if it's an elderly home. This is what they're doing, and it's coming. So you better be prepared, and you better be where the Spirit leads you to be. Otherwise, it's just going to be confusion and fear in your life, and you will be deceived. This is for your eternity, people. I have a lot to share with you, but it's just a little bit overwhelming right now.
Put down your weapons!
Reprogram now?
Yes. But don't fill him with anything above level 3. I doubt if the human mind could take it.
I understand.
And are you ready for the Great Reset? Well, you should be, because whether you're ready or not, it's coming. What you're looking at here are sculptures that originated from ancient Egypt. They're currently being held at the British Museum in London. We see here a human in the center of 2 Nephilim hybrids, half man, half beast. The symbolism of the beast system always gives it away. In this picture, in these ancient sculptures from Egypt, we find the kneeling, we also find the fist raised. This is evidence of that same spirit that ran ancient Egypt. What we're actually seeing here is that same Antichrist spirit from Egypt manifesting in America. Currently in America, there's a movement where many millions of people are taking a knee. We are also finding movements where there are millions of people in America raising the fist. The narrative that's in place behind these symbolic gestures has nothing to do with the actual spirit that is behind these movements and these symbols. In all nations where communist politicians and insurgents operate, these evil men and women invariably identify themselves by making the sign of the clenched fist. Some biblical authorities say that the clenched fist also represents the rebellious attitude of the people of Babylon towards the Lord God. Dr. Peter Ruckman wrote that you will find this salute being given by all members of the Communist Party in New York in the 1920s and by the Stalinist Abraham Lincoln Brigade during the Civil War in Spain in the 1930s. This salute was adopted by the Black Panthers in America during the 1960s. Liberal Afro-American leaders continue to employ this salute to this day. The clenched fist salute or hand sign is also well known in Freemasonry. It's called the first sign or due guard. In the ritual of the Select Master degree is the holding up or raising of both arms in an L or square position with the fists of both hands typically clenched. Richardson's Monitor of Freemasonry states, the signs of a Select Master are then given as follows. The first is similar to the sign of a Master Mason. The fists are both clenched in allusion to one of the penalties of the obligation, which is to have both hands chopped off to the stumps. And here we find another interesting symbol that connects Freemasonry with ancient Egypt. A detailed study of ancient Egyptian religious literature provides us with tons of useful information on topics of witchcraft and divine powers. Magic, sorceries, and spells also formed a large part of ancient Egyptian society. It's as I always say, the symbols will tell the rest of the story. There is a language of symbols, ancient, it's been with us since the very beginning. And here we're finding those connections between ancient Egypt, which worshipped the sun god, or Lucifer, openly, and the mass amounts of chaos taking place in our modern day society. All of these people are being controlled by the same Antichrist spirit. And the sad part is, the majority of them have no clue. Anyone who has actually studied Freemasonry, or perhaps been a Freemason themselves, understand the connection between ancient Egypt, the mystery schools, the mystery religions, and modern Freemasonry. The connections here can be very diverse, and the study of this connection between Egypt and Freemasonry can get very deep. It's my opinion, in keeping it simple, that the ultimate connection between modern Freemasonry and ancient Egypt is that worship of the sun god. I also believe that many of these Masons and other secret societies on very high levels are doing the devil's work on this earth. Both the ancient Egyptians and modern Freemasonry at higher levels are working to form that one world order system with a one world leader. This ancient spirit of Egypt manifests in a myriad of ways all around the world. It's not just in America. We can find the same symbolism right here. This is from a nuclear security summit that took place in 2014. Obama was there with leaders from all around the world. And as you can see, they're sitting in a circle. And just inside the circle that they're sitting at, you can see modern-day hieroglyphics all around. And what do we find right in the center? A massive pyramid on top of a sun disk. This is a direct connection back to that system, or that spirit of ancient Egypt, the mystery schools, the mystery religions.
I warn you, Holmes, if you pursue this matter... So, what the...
Forgive the sleight of hand, Sir Charles. In the pursuit of criminals, one learns their devices.
What is this mumbo-jumbo?
The handshake and the ring, Watson, are archaic rituals preserved by the 33rd degree members of the secret order of Freemasons.
Now there's something else I want to show you. What you're looking at is a map of Egypt, and what you see right there in the center is the Nile River. And the Nile River runs the entire length of Egypt. On the east side, it's about 30% of land, and on the west side, about 70%. The Nile River is also called the cradle of civilization. And now we go to a map of America. And what do we find in America? The Mississippi River. And the Mississippi River runs the entire length of America. On the east side, about 30% of the land. On the west, about 70% of the land. It's also interesting to note that the Mississippi River is considered the cradle of American civilization. And here's something else to take note of. Looking back at the map of Egypt, looking back at the Nile River, we find a city on the river called Memphis. And of course, in America, we also have a city named Memphis that sits on the Mississippi River. And it just so happens to have a massive pyramid in the city as well. It also has a statue of Ramses the Great in front of the pyramid. Even taking a look at American currency, we notice the two triangles, the pyramid and the capstone above it. The top capstone of the pyramid is not in place, and that's for a reason. It's denoting an unfinished situation. The capstone is detached from the bottom portion. And interestingly, the Great Pyramid of Egypt was never finished. So this unfinished situation was planned to remain in effect until the old world order was destroyed and replaced with a new world order. In Genesis, God stopped the tower and city of Babel from being built. Satan wants the work to continue, which will usher in the reign of the man of sin and world dictatorship. Here's another way that we find that same spirit manifesting in our modern world. Just a few years ago, there were some museums that were putting on a display called King Tut and the Golden Age of the Pharaohs. And for whatever reason, they chose to take a 26-foot-tall statue of Anubis, the god of the dead, and put him on his own world tour. And even more interesting, this same statue of the god of judgment, Anubis was a god of judgment, this same 26-foot-tall statue ended up settling at the Denver International Airport. The Denver International Airport is one of the most significant areas in the world when it comes to the occult being hidden in plain sight. There are also obvious Freemason connections to the Denver International Airport, and here we find that connection back to ancient Egypt, the mystery schools, the mystery religions. The god of death went on a world tour just a few years ago as a symbol of what's to come. For many years on my channel here, I've been showing people how this beast system is manifesting and growing. And the spirit behind that beast system, the beast itself, comes to us in many forms. Here's something else interesting I wanted to point out. I don't know if you had a chance to read this. Archbishop Vigano's powerful letter to President Trump. Eternal struggle between good and evil playing out right now. This is a paragraph from that letter, but there's something in this I really want to point out near the end. It says, "We will also discover that the riots in these days were provoked by those who, seeing that the virus is inevitably fading and that the social alarm of the pandemic is waning, necessarily have had to provoke civil disturbances, because they would be followed by repression which, although legitimate, could be condemned as an unjustified aggression against the population. The same thing is also happening in Europe, in perfect synchrony. It is quite clear that the use of street protests is instrumental to the purposes of those who would like to see someone elected in the upcoming presidential elections who embodies the goals of the deep state and who expresses those goals faithfully and with conviction. It will not be surprising if, in a few months, we learn once again that hidden behind these acts of vandalism and violence, there are those who hope to profit from the dissolution of the social order so as to build a world without freedom." And here's the really important part: salva et coagula, as the Masonic adage teaches. It turns out that when the Archbishop wrote that phrase, he was referring to the Baphomet. The Baphomet being one of the most well-known and recognized symbols of the beast. The meaning is component elements being synthesized into a new substance and of the heavenly, thereby manifesting into the earthly. So this encompasses as above, so below. But it's also interesting to point out that Baphomet itself is a transgender. So in a sense, these are the elements being synthesized into something new. It's also interesting to note that J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter series, has the exact same phrase tattooed on her wrist. We are dealing with an ancient spirit. We are also dealing with millions of people that are a part of that satanic hive mind. This Antichrist spirit, this spirit of the beast, it comes to us in many forms, and it goes by many names. Ultimately, it's the same presence. This is an enemy of humanity that has come to steal, kill, and destroy. And right now, at this point in our life, in our history, this spirit is actively and aggressively leading humanity into captivity.
More jazz, hit me one time, make it funky. More jazz, hit me one time, make it funky.
All right, hey everybody. I'm going to talk today about Freemasonry and the Noahide Code. Basically, I was reading this book here by Albert Mackey, The Symbolism of Freemasonry, written by a 33rd degree Freemason. So I'm going to go through this book, and then I'm going to look at what is a Noahide, and I'm going to trace it back to what that means for us today. So chapter 1 is the origin and progress of Freemasonry. All right, then he goes on to talk about the two doctrines of Freemasonry, which are the unity of God and the immortality of the soul. Chapter 2, the Noahide. These are the doctrines which still constitute the creed of Freemasonry, and hence one of the names bestowed upon the Freemasons from the earliest times was that of Noachidae, or Noachites. That is to say, the descendants of Noah and the transmitters of his religious dogmas. It doesn't say it came from Noah. It says the descendants of Noah. Let's see who those were. All right, so here's Noah's family tree, right? We got Noah up here on the upper left. Ham had a son, Cush. Cush had a son, Nimrod. Nimrod built the Tower of Babel. And they said to one another, "Go, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly." They had brick for stone and slime they had for mortar. Sounds like masonry, doesn't it? And his other son, Egypt. All right, this is Egypt. And another son, Canaan, the Canaanites. So the lineage of Ham were the enemies of God. But they are technically descendants of Noah. Freemasonry came from the descendants of Noah. So Ham was trying to bring back the pre-flood Nephilim kingdom. And then it says here, all the deities of pagan antiquity, however numerous they may be, can always be reduced to the two different forms of the generative principle, the active or male and the passive or female. Hence the gods were always arranged in pairs, as Jupiter and Juno, Bacchus and Venus, Osiris and Isis. But the ancients went further, believing that the procreative and productive powers of nature might be conceived to exist in the same individual. They made the older of their deities hermaphrodite and used the term the man-virgin to denote the union of the two sexes in the same divine person. What's the unity of God? The male and the female combined into one body. They're hermaphrodite God. Elsewhere, I have very fully alluded to the prevailing sentiment among the ancients that the supreme deity was bisexual or hermaphrodite, including in the essence of his being the male and female principles, the generative and prolific powers of nature. This was the universal doctrine in all the ancient religions. They all taught that God, the Creator, was both male and female. In Kabbalah, a hidden meaning is often deduced from a word by transposing or reversing its letters, and it was in this way that the Kabbalists concealed many of their mysteries. Lancy applied this Kabbalistic mode to the Tetragrammaton when he found out that IHOH being read reversely makes the word ho-hi. So basically he's talking about reading the word backwards may reveal the true name of God. But in Hebrew, ho is the masculine pronoun equivalent to the English he, and hi is the feminine pronoun equivalent to she. And therefore the word ho-hi, literally translated, is equivalent to the English compound he, she. That is to say, the ineffable name of God in Hebrew, being read Kabbalistically, includes within itself the male and female principle. It's another pregnant proof of the connection between Freemasonry and the ancient mysteries. See right there, he's saying Freemasons believe that the true name of God is he, she, that God is a she-male. They're calling God a ladyboy right here, all right? And here perhaps we may begin to find some meaning for the hitherto incomprehensible passage in Genesis. No, it's not incomprehensible. It's very simple. I will explain it. Genesis 1 is a broad overview of the entire week of creation, creating everything. It's not a detailed focus on creating human beings, which we do get in chapter 2. All right, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. All right, you see that? God created him. Singular masculine pronoun. Who could that be? It could only be Adam. It can only refer to one person, and it's in the masculine form. And this is his, another masculine pronoun. And God is always called the Father, right? Even by Jesus, called the Father all the time. Okay, now there's a semicolon. There's a little pause there, right? Male and female created he. Now, does it say him? Is this a singular pronoun? No, it's not. It's a plural pronoun. Them is talking about more than one person. Well, who could that be? Well, maybe one male and one female, perhaps. Him referring to one person in the masculine. Them referring to two people, one male, one female, two people. Now, if this word here said him, we'd be in a lot of trouble, all right? but it says them, right? Male and female created he them. And this is not the complete story of the creation of Eve. We get that in chapter 2. God did not create Eve in his own image. God created Eve out of the raw materials of Adam. Created Adam in his own image. He created Eve, but it's just not in his own image. The all-seeing eye is another and a still more important symbol of the same great being. The symbol of universal nature among the Egyptians was the right-angled triangle, of which the perpendicular side represented Osiris, or the male principle, the base Isis, or the female principle, and the hypotenuse, their offspring Horus, or the world emanating from the union of both principles. So Horus is a tranny, all right? The Eye of Horus is the symbol of the androgyne, which the Masonic institution assumed at the building of King Solomon's temple, in consequence of the union at that era of the pure Freemasonry of the Noachidae. Okay, now there's these people here, the Noahides, right? From previous videos, we saw this represents the male and female combined into the androgynous god and the androgynous human. So they have 7 laws, all right? Now, this is not Torah. This is what they call the Noahide 7 laws that were given to Noah orally. Now, there was a covenant of the rainbow given to Noah, but this is not it. They've changed it. Included in this are the details of God's directive for all Gentiles to observe their 7 Noahide commandments. It all begins with recognizing the perfect unity of the Creator. There we go, unity, right? What does unity mean? Male and female combined. Modern Noahidism. 7 commandments, 7 laws only, and remaining commandments do not apply to them. This means that Noahides may not observe Sabbath, study Torah, except for the 7 laws, which are not part of Torah, all right? And the rainbow is the modern symbol of Noahidism, all right? This is their symbol. We've seen that before, haven't we? We know who uses this symbol nowadays, right? Noachide website. Now, here's an article on gay marriage, but within this, now they say that they're anti-gay marriage, although, you know, with their rainbow flag and all, I kind of doubt that. But within this article here, it says, in the first marriage ever, Adam and Eve were initially created as a single two-faced body. The single being was split in two, a man and a woman, and then reunited in matrimony. In the world of souls, the partition and reunification of the male and female components of individual souls occurs continually. Celebrating diversity was conceived as an opportunity to unite the world by re-echoing the belief in one God as the creator of all human beings and the belief that we are all created in the divine image. What's the divine image? The male and female hermaphrodite God. This is the true meaning of harnessing diversity among different cultures. This is the foundation for our organization's goal, which to work alongside the United Nations and other partner organizations with hopes of promoting human rights and development and protecting freedom of religion. Well, their religion, 7 universal laws of Noah are means by which humanity strives to live in unity and peace. The laws of Noah, or the Noahide laws, are comprised of 7 universal laws, biblical binding upon all humanity. In 1991, a joint resolution of the United States Congress called its principles the bedrock of society from the dawn of civilization, without which the edifice of civilization stands in serious peril of returning to chaos. What is a Noahite? Definition: a Freemason who has taken the 21st degree of the Scottish Rite. 2. Freemason. Albert Mackey says Freemasons come from the Noachites. So basically the Congress said that Freemasonry is the bedrock of civilization. Okay, now this is from the IsraelNationalNews.com. The Noahide Laws, a universal code for peace and unity. It says here, all descendants of Noah, which means all of humanity, are required to follow these laws. Gentiles who actively follow the 7 laws of Noah are called B'nai Noach, or Noahides. Sometimes they are referred to as righteous Gentiles or the pious among the nations. The Noahide laws were given to Moses and also preserved by the sages of the Talmud. All right, now here's the Jewish Institute for Global Awareness. Government leaders encourage adherence to the 7 Noahide laws. The universality of these principles in global import was recognized in 1982 by President Ronald Reagan, when he spoke of the eternal validity of these 7 Noahide laws as a moral code for all of us, regardless of religious faith. Proclamation on the National Day of Reflection, April 4th, 1982. 7 years later, in 1989, H.W. not only proclaimed that these biblical values, they're not biblical, all right? Freemasonic values are the foundation for civilized society. A society that fails to recognize or adhere to them cannot endure. And you think these people are clever, right? Because we're all descendants of Noah. So they're saying that the entire world has to follow the laws given to Noah since we're all descendants of Noah, right? So legally, we're all bound to this law. Both the Senate and the House of Representatives of the United States Congress in 1991 on a bipartisan basis further recognized how this historical tradition of ethical values and principles of Freemasonry upon which our great nation was founded. All right, there it is right there. United States Congress admitted that the United States was founded on the principles of Freemasonry, all right, have been the bedrock of society from the dawn of civilization when they were known as the 7 Noahide laws. The American Congress understood how the most recent weakening of these principles has resulted in crisis that beleaguer and threaten the fabric of civilized society. Thus, they warned us that without these ethical values and principles, the edifice of civilization, oh, like the Tower of Babel? Yeah, that was a pretty good one, huh? Stands in serious peril. How about the pre-flood Nephilim kingdom, huh? That turned out pretty well for you guys, didn't it? Yeah. Serious peril of returning to chaos. Returning to chaos. Other world leaders have joined the call for further observance of knowledge of Freemasonry. For example, Herman Van Rompuy, president of the European Union, wrote in July 2014 that he seeks greater dissemination of the universal values known as Freemasonry. And Major General Michael Jeffrey, Governor General of Australia, lamenting family breakdowns and drug and alcohol abuse in modern society in 2008 letter, wrote that he believed that observing the fundamental values of the Noahide laws can be an antidote to such ills of society. You got a drug problem? Freemasonry. Here's your new big book. Prohibition of idolatry. Well, you might say, well, that sounds just like the Bible. Well, it kind of does sound like the Bible, right? The problem is that the Jews believe Jesus, Yeshua HaMashiach, is an idol. They're going to call that idolatry. And idolatry is punishable by death. Breaking any of these laws is the death penalty. This is the New World Order religion. Right here, 7, create a fair and righteous judicial system to enforce the other 6 laws and all other laws consistent with them. Idolatry, worshiping false gods. The Hebrew term for idolatry, whatever, it means strange worship, in the sense of being outside the boundaries of that which is permitted by denying pure monotheism. The worship of anything other than God constitutes an act of idolatry. This includes deifying any object other than God, including a deification of the human being. Right? But they're going to include Jesus in this, right? President Bush Roadmap to World Peace, press release. President George Bush confers with Noahide.org to discuss the importance of 7 universal Noahide laws. Among the religious leaders was Rabbi Dr. Yaakov Cohen from Melbourne, Australia, who represented the Worldwide Institute of Noahide Code, an organization dedicated to promote the Noahide Code of 7 universal laws. Rabbi Cohen presented the roadmap to world peace, explaining that the Noahide laws can unite all of mankind. When humanity is unified, when humanity becomes androgynous, hermaphrodite, by its highest common denominator, genuine peace and harmony will flourish throughout the world. Okay, now this is George H.W. Bush, writing in 1989. The principles of moral and ethical conduct that have formed the basis for all civilizations come to us in part from the centuries-old 7 Noahide laws, otherwise known as Freemasonry. They basically passed some kind of resolution to designate these 2 days as Education Day USA. They also, in doing that, they officially pronounced Freemasonry as the foundation of the universal law for humanity. That's official law in the United States is Freemasonry. That's kind of covertly what they did. And now there's all kinds of, conspiracy websites and stuff. So you got Talmudic law has infiltrated America. The judicial system is a criminal conspiracy. All non-Jews beware. They're going to use this to bring back the guillotine. Part of the laws of the Noahides are, if you break the 7 laws, death by beheading with the guillotine. Moses, our teacher, was commanded by the Almighty to compel the world to accept the commandments of the sons of Noah. Anyone who fails to accept them is executed. Whereas the justified preoccupation with these crises must not let the citizens of this nation lose sight of their responsibility to transmit these historical, ethical values from our distinguished past to the generations of the future. So 1991, the year in which we turn to education and charity to return the world to the moral and ethical values contained in the 7 Noahide laws. Freemasonry. And this will be reflected in an international scroll of honor signed by the President of the United States and other heads of state. And think about 1991, right? This is the year H.W. was giving those New World Order speeches, all right? Let's listen to what he has to say.
What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order, where diverse nations are drawn together in common cause to achieve the universal aspirations of mankind: peace and security, freedom, and the rule of law. Such is a world worthy of our struggle and worthy of our children's future.
The law. He was talking about exactly what it says here, returning the world to the law of the Noahides, making Freemasonry the law of the entire world. The alchemist's great work. In alchemy, the great work is producing the perfect androgyne, or mankind restored to wholeness. I'm going to start beheading people who have the witness of Jesus and the Word of God, because everyone else is going to become a tranny.
The inventors of vaccines have chosen a belief system whereby infants are all born with inadequate immune systems, and that the only way they can be saved from hepatitis B, rotavirus, etc., the infant vaccines, that the only way they can be saved from these diseases is getting vaccines into them as quickly as possible in multiple injections. So why do we need multiple injections?
Okay, so anyway, she's going to also move ahead, and then she makes another statement that's pretty shocking, because when you think about it, these people who are doctors, scientists, and all of that, they have worked their way into our psychology to make us believe that we're not fit for this world unless they actually do something for us, or that doctors actually perform some sort of technique of magic on us that will keep us alive. And she talks about, one of the things that she talks about, she says that you can get well without allopathic medicines. She says we depend so much upon the drug industry to make us feel better that sometimes we over-medicate, we overreact to our own illnesses, and rather than give our bodies a chance to heal itself and trust our own immune system, she says we have a tendency to overreact. Let me see if I can even find that.
Of non-reactivity into one of hyperreactivity. I think the reason that many people don't trust their own immune systems is because they've been conditioned to not trust it. They've never been given the opportunity to actually get sick and recover without an allopathic intervention. And because when they do get sick, they're given acetaminophen, ibuprofen, antibiotics, antivirals. And guess what? When you put those things into somebody who's sick, you'll make them sicker. But the person that's sick may think that the illness that they had just got worse. They're not going to think that the drugs that they took, I can't convince people that the drugs that they've taken made them sicker and that they wouldn't have just gotten sicker anyway. It's very difficult because of the belief systems people have and what's on the shelves in the stores and what's being advertised on television, helping them with the beautiful pictures and the healthy people that are used in these ads. And then you have a doctor standing there with a degree.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. So guys, I'm telling you, it's this time, time is winding up. You know, if you have not made your choice for Jesus, you know, then I recommend that you do. You know, if you've been on the fence right now, give your life to Jesus Christ and realize that there is something greater beyond this world. And that, you know, God has already given you a body that's fearfully and wonderfully made. You don't need anything extra. And what's so strange about this is that they're asking us to be vaccinated for something we're not even sick from.
If this coronavirus makes its second or third wave around the world like the experts are predicting, and the Bill Gates vaccine is magically ready, and they offer you the vaccine, but in order to get the vaccine, you also have to receive the biometric tattoo. Will you take it? If not, you probably won't be able to go to work or to school or the grocery store or to the bank. In the grand scheme of things, it'll probably not be a non-Christian thing if you accept that tattoo. A vaccine tattoo will probably be okay. But later on, if we carry out this philosophy to Revelation chapter 13, when it's not just about a vaccine, but when you're required to swear allegiance and be willing to worship the exalted leader of the United Nations, or whatever the name is called at that point, to prove your loyalty to the UN, then you must take this biometric tattoo. And if you don't take it, then you won't be able to buy or sell or travel or get health care. What then? You're probably saying, Danny, I think this is a little extreme. I don't think this can happen. Sure, it can happen. It's happened before in history, even in some non-techie times. In ancient Rome, under the Roman Caesar Domitian, who happened to be in charge when John wrote the book of Revelation, he forced people to offer a sacrifice once a year of incense. It was just a little pinch. It wasn't much incense, just a little bit. All you had to do is pitch it into the fire and say, Caesar's Lord. That's it. And you're a good Roman citizen, and life goes merrily along. But that was a problem for some folks called Christians. They refused to take the pinch of incense and pitch it in the fire, and they refused to say, Caesar's Lord. Instead, they said, Jesus is Lord, and they and their families were thrown to the lions or given some other horrible punishment.
This is a plan that was agreed to by 179 nations. It's called the Agenda for the 21st Century. It's a totalitarian state being developed right now all over the world. It is the inventory and control plan. Inventory and control of all land, all water, all minerals, all plants, all animals, all construction, all means of production, all food, all energy, all information, and all human beings.
Everything happening right now is about us, those that love God, those that love Christ. This is from July 11th, 2020. 3 churches burned in just over 24 hours. But you wouldn't know it if you watch national news. They're all on the same script. 2 days ago, investigation continues into arson at 100-year-old rural Missouri church. 5 days ago, churches report Chicago officials are threatening to bulldoze their facilities for not complying with C-19 mandates. 3 days ago, Virgin Mary statue set on fire outside Boston Church. 3 days ago, college Democrats, Satanists, and witches team up to shut down Young Conservatives of Texas chapter. The Baphomet is in the church. Here's a short clip for you to check out. This took place just a few days ago itself in Toronto.
I want you to hear me when I tell you that I'm not just supposed to be a pastor.
I'm supposed to be a woman. Hi, friends. Hi, family. My name is Junia. You can call me June. I'm a transgender woman, and my pronouns are she and her.
Most Worshipful Grand Master, on behalf of the Brethren of Royal Somerset House,
Most Worshipful Grand Master,
our ceremonies and forever remind us of our incomparable heritage and the birth of organised Freemasonry,
stressing the deep and sincere loyalty and affection felt by the Brethren of the United Grand Lodge of England for their Grand Master.
We leave the Royal Albert Hall even more proud of our ancient institution.
Most Worshipful Grand Master, I humbly ask you to complete the initiation of this worthy candidate for Freemasonry.
Hey there, it's us again. This is my brother Peter, Mom and Dad, and I'm Dasha. Today, we're going to be showing our friends Andrew and Lisa the basics of the internet, and we thought you might want to come along.
It'll be cool.
Now here's a little background. When we installed internet access on our computer, I got the whole family involved.
It's true, everybody had their own tasks to do.
It was a lot of work, but it was really worth it.
Now that I've gotten on the internet, I'd rather be on my computer than doing just about anything.
It's really cool.
The internet gave us a whole world of exciting new possibilities. So I guess this is a story of how it changed our lives. Maybe it will yours too.
With the COVID-19 pandemic disrupting daily life, we've been adjusting to this new normal using digital platforms and video conferencing to make up for face-to-face interactions, telecommuting, increasing delivery services, and even deploying robots where we can. As this pandemic stretches on, it's becoming clear to us that some elements of this highly digitalized lifestyle are here to stay.
As Rich told you, we installed the internet on our computer just a short time ago, and I haven't been able to get the kids off it ever since.
Not only do they play the typical computer games that all the kids enjoy, but their curiosity for learning has skyrocketed. Peter is constantly quoting sports statistics, and he can tell you the best surfing spots around the globe.
Not to mention the improvement in Peter's grades, and Dasha's too. Having the internet in our home has had a great impact on our lives. Rich keeps up with the stock market and our investments, and I'm able to pay the bills in half the time it used to take me. And the kids are improving in their grades and communication skills.
Which makes me happy, as I would sure like them to go to college someday.
Tech giants, they're also playing a very big role in facilitating the health and safety of the public during this pandemic, as well as enabling telework and communication, of course. But this really involves using location data from smartphones to do contact tracing, and they're also needing a lot of health information as well. And this kind of surveillance would have been rather inconceivable a few months ago. There have also been privacy concerns with video conferencing platforms like Zoom. What could be done then to protect our privacy and security?
Yeah, privacy feels sort of like a moving target sometimes.
You know, I've been able to read some of my favorite cooking magazines online. I've even gotten some great gardening tips too.
No wonder you guys are always so busy on the computer.
Which makes me happy, as I sure would like them to go to college someday. That has to be my favorite line from that whole video. Kids' Introduction to the Internet from 1990 whatever. Pretty hilarious if you look at it now. So yeah, has the internet impacted everyone's lives in more than just the ways that we imagined it would? Or that it was presented as when it first became a household thing? You tell me.
We shall propose further cooperative efforts between all the nations in weather prediction and eventually in weather control. This lays the predicate and the foundation for the development of a weather satellite that will permit man to determine the world's cloud layer and ultimately to control the weather, and he who controls the weather will control the world.
Despite the cost, however, NASA does need to test these engines once in a while. So they built this place in the wetlands of Mississippi. The first thing they installed was a huge loudspeaker, through which they played white noise to simulate the sound of a rocket. They then sent a number of trucks in different directions out into the wilderness, and the drivers were ordered to stop when the noise levels became acceptable. This gave them an imaginary boundary line, and anyone living on the inside of it was offered a simple choice. Stay, and you'll never hear another television program as long as you live. Or take the NASA shilling and get out. No one stayed, and NASA ended up with exactly what it wanted. 125,000 acres of nothing. They even had to move 5 cemeteries, because the noise they were planning on making would wake the dead. If you can't hear what I'm saying, I couldn't even hear myself. This is the loudest sound you could possibly conceive. And, as it turns out, the cleanest. most amazing thing is that that cloud up there, which was generated by the engine, is just a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen. It's water vapor. And in about an hour's time, someone in Mississippi is going to get wet washing. It will actually rain. I told you. It's raining. That's unbelievable. NASA's playing God. It's making its own weather. NASA's playing God. It's making its own weather.
There's nothing in the scripture that says that you won't experience persecution or difficulty in this life, even before your pre-trib rapture moment that would take all the Christians out so that, they're not there for the mark of the beast or the Antichrist. So it's like even there, I have a different eschatological perspective on that point, but nevertheless, we can still agree and that these things have been happening in the past. They're not new. This is not some crazy theory. Totalitarianism is not a theory. Communism is not a theory. Do men with warped beliefs and godless ideologies come together and cooperate and conspire to bring about all kinds of... At one point, do you just have to stop hiding behind the conspiracy theory deflection mechanism? Because that's really what it is. Either you believe in evil or you don't. At the very bottom line, you could summarize it all as just man conspiring against God in the end. But maybe that's what I think is weird, is that maybe that's the concept that really isn't there. That I don't know that a lot of Christians who have such difficulty with these kinds of topics and these kinds of questions, do they really believe that man is in rebellion against God? That the reason Satan is able to orchestrate and to infiltrate and to deceive humanity on massive levels with things like, Darwinism, or the Big Bang, or infanticide, otherwise known as family planning, or all sorts of things. It's because of people's own rejection of God, because their deeds are evil. I mean, even if the mark of the beast is 100 years away, does it ultimately make any difference to the basic question of, are you really so afraid of dying from a disease and not having enough healthcare infrastructure in place to save the maximum number of people according to the models and according to the experts? Even if there really were people dying in hand over fist, even if there really was like a plague straight out of the X-Files where your eyes turned black and anyone who came into contact it was just done. I mean, it would kind of make sense, right, to shut down the whole world economy if it was like something out of a horror sci-fi movie. It makes sense that the world could be so easily manipulated through fear of death because they are still afraid of death, because they have no hope in the resurrection. So if your hope is in the resurrection, and you know that it's appointed unto once a man to die and then face the judgment, if you know that every time you walk outside there's a million different ways your life could end in a moment, and God is ultimately in control of it all, and you don't just hide in your house and pray for the day when technology can deliver everything to your front door. I mean, good grief. Or maybe I think some of them are just still trying to convince themselves that it's just temporary, it's just temporary. You're making a big deal out of nothing because it's all going to go in. They're just in denial at that. Even though it's just being said point blank in the media, in everything, that there's no going back to normal.
Because so many people have asymptomatic infection, 20 to 45% of people, it certainly is a killer of those who are the senior citizens and those with underlying conditions. Occasionally, you have an exception. We have a perfectly young, healthy person has very serious disease and died. That's a minority of that. But I don't see this disappearing the way SARS-1 did. The reason I say that is that it is so efficient in its ability to transmit from human to human that I think we ultimately will get control of it. I don't really see us eradicating it. I think with a combination of good public health measures, a degree of global herd immunity, and a good vaccine, which I do hope and feel cautiously optimistic that we will get. I think when you put all three of those together, I think we will get very good control of this. Whether it's this year or next year, I'm not certain. But I think ultimately, with a combination of good public health measures and a vaccine, that we may not eradicate it, but I think we will bring it down to such a low level that we will not be in the position that we're in right now for an extended period of time.
There's the new normal. There's no in-depth, connect the dots with the giant conspiracy collage on the wall necessary to figure out that the numbers don't add up, that the reaction doesn't add up, that destroying millions upon millions of livelihoods of families does not add up to try and save. It's all about the respirators. What happened to the respirators? We don't even hear, nobody's talking about the respirators anymore. It's all about new cases, right? You just literally change the emphasis whenever you want. Groupthink is real. Newspeak.
This will be the year the American people say enough is enough. This will finally be the year the American people say enough is enough. Enough is enough.
It was the American people saying enough is enough. They're fed up.
And say enough is enough.
Say enough is enough. Enough is enough. And we do not tolerate this kind of behavior in this country.
Me, the guy who hosted The Apprentice and sold steaks. But enough is enough. It has to be stopped. It has to be stopped now. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. Enough is enough.
A new world order.
President Trump's foreign policy mean a new world order. Joining us now to discuss.
Can we skinny dip? At Camp David? Sure. They couldn't keep pants on Kissinger.
There's a need for a new world order. A new world order can be created.
Without my help and knowledge, every one of you will be dead.
Got a name?
Trump.
I bet it fits. Your name is Trump? How long are you gonna let this con man walk around town?
Be careful, son. I can sue you. I don't intend to sit here and be insulted, Sheriff. If your people don't want my help, I can go elsewhere.
Now, wait a minute, Mr. Trump. You don't talk for the rest of us.
Since the sheriff wouldn't stop Trump, Hobie had to find somebody who would.
Do you hear about Trump?
Yes, sir. What are you gonna do about him?
What do you want me to do?
Stop him.
Now, there's nothing in the world could change their minds. And anybody who tries to could end up getting hurt. They're not going to listen.
Well, there's got to be some way to stop him.
Well, if there is, I don't know it. It's funny how a big lie can make us all kids again.
Why has nobody been to the moon in such a long time?
That's not an 8-year-old's question. That's my question. I want to know, but I think I know. Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened. And if it didn't happen, it's nice to know why it didn't happen, so in the future, if we want to keep doing something, we need to know why something stopped in the past that we wanted to keep it going. Money is a good thing.
Hobie had checked the town. The people were ready to believe. Like sheep, they ran toward the slaughterhouse. And waiting for them was the high priest of fraud.
I am the only one. Just me. I can build a wall around your homes that nothing will penetrate.
What do we do? How do we save ourselves?
You ask, how do you build that wall? You ask, and I'm here to tell you.
We will finally complete the biometric entry-exit visa tracking system, which we need desperately. For years, Congress has required biometric entry-exit visa tracking systems, but it has never been completed. The politicians are all talk, no action, never happens, never happens. Hillary Clinton, all talk. Unfortunately, when there is action, it's always the wrong decision. Do you ever notice? In my administration, we will ensure that this system is in place. And I will tell you, it will be on land, it will be on sea, it will be in air. We will have a proper tracking system. Approximately half of new illegal immigrants came on temporary visas and then never, ever left. Why should they? Nobody's telling them to leave. Stay as long as you want. We'll take care.
You're a liar, Trump.
Trump's sure having his way.
You're going to go back and tell him, Trump. What? You're going to go back and tell him it's a fake. You did a good job working him up into this mood, and now let's see you talk your way out of it.
You don't think I'd lie, do you?
You don't want an answer to that. No, I don't need you now. Every minute you're alive, my neck's in trouble. I know those saddlebags. I'll take them.
Until the crowd knew that everything Trump had said was a lie, there was no hope for Talbot.
This is a computer chip designed to emulate how the human brain thinks, which IBM successfully developed and revealed to the world. In the future, wearing a similar device, you might be able to access the unlimited knowledge of the internet directly into your brain. In the future, with a combination of robotic enhancements and genetic engineering, you might have a perfect body. There's room to debate precisely when this will happen, but such a world is coming.
And know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Even though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea, Though its waters roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake with its swelling, be still and know that I am God.
That's a guillotine. Look at it laying out.
Everyone's going to have to chip in. That's only fair. That's the principle I'll be fighting for during the next phase of this process.
Chop your head off.
A year of groundbreaking discoveries and
in Walmart, right next to it, so they can put you in the FEMA camps and chop your fingers off until you say, yes, I bow to the beast. I receive his mark in my right hand or in my forehead, the abomination of desolation. Spoken about in Daniel, the prophet, in Matthew, Jesus spoke about it.
Be a part of your army, and I said, Lord, I want to be a part of your army. I want to be a part of that generation of people that you raise up. And the Lord, he just sang this over me. He said, you got your best men on your front side. You always show your best side. And evil's always on the other side. You say this is your strategy. But son, I hope you take it from me. You look just like your enemy. You're full of pride. You're full of pride. And I just sang back to him, I said, better trash our idols if we're gonna be in the army of the Lord. And the greatest idol is you and me. We better get on the threshing floor. When will we learn that God's strategy is giving glory to the Lord? So God, so we trash our idols 'cause we wanna be in the army of the Lord. Star, how beautiful you shine. Your shine's more beautiful than mine. You shine from sea to shine and sea. Worldwide is your strategy.
Over the horizon, over the